Starting off my list at number 10, I have Larry Walker to the Cardinals. Let's start this off with a fun one, and one that I remember quite fondly, and that's the Cardinals picking up Larry Walker in 2004. Larry Walker ended up becoming a Hall of Famer in 2020, and will mostly be remembered for all of his amazing years with the Expos and the Rockies, but his time with the Cardinals at the end of his career was very productive. The Cardinals were a fantastic team in 2004, with a great lineup that featured Albert Pujols, Jim Edmonds, and Scott Rowland, and posting the best record that season with 105 wins. When the Rockies placed Larry Walker on waivers to help him play for a contender at the end of his career, though, the Cardinals jumped all over it to bolster their lineup even more. He ended up being a solid bat for them down the stretch, hitting .280 with a .393 on base, a .560 slugging, and 11 homers over 44 games. He ended up hitting well in the postseason as well, en route to a World Series, hitting .293 with a .379 on base, a .707 slugging, and 6 homers. While the Cardinals did end up losing in the World Series to my Red Sox, I digress. Larry Walker ended up having a very productive end to his career. At number 9, I have Delmon Young to the Tigers. When Delmon Young was selected first overall in the 2003 draft by the Rays, hopes were high due to his 5-tool ability, but he ended up not living up to his potential. After a couple seasons with the Rays, they shipped him to the Twins, who ended up receiving a solid player in Jason Bartlett and a workhorse pitcher in Matt Garza, both who helped get the Rays to the World Series in 2008. After a couple underwhelming seasons with the Twins, he was shipped off again in 2011, this time to the Tigers. While he didn't do much for the Tigers in the regular season, he came up big in the postseason en route to the 2012 World Series. In the ALCS against the Yankees, he came up huge, hitting .353 with a 1.186 OPS, 2 homers, and 6 RBIs, which helped him earn the ALCS MVP. At number 8, I have JEROMY BURNITZ. You know when you see a former player and you go, oh yeah, that guy had a few good seasons? Well, JEROMY BURNITZ is one of those guys. A first-round pick in 1990, BURNITZ ended up becoming quite the power threat, but not until after a couple underwhelming seasons with the Mets and after the Cleveland Indians traded him to the Milwaukee Brewers by the waiver deadline. The Brewers sent back upcoming free agent Kevin Seitzer to get BURNITZ, and BURNITZ proceeded to explode for the Brewers. Over the next 5 seasons with the Brewers, he averaged 33 homers and 102 RBIs a season while slugging .512 and made the All-Star game in 1999. At number 7, I have Brian Giles to the Padres. Brian Giles, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated players of all time. Drafted in the 17th round in 1989 by the Cleveland Indians, Giles made his debut in 1995 and became a full-time player by 1997. Between 1996 and 1998, Giles averaged a .289 batting average and an .870 OPS. Cleveland ended up trading him to Pittsburgh. What do you know? Cleveland making another bad trade for pitcher Ricardo Rincon. A head-scratching move considering how solid Giles was. With Pittsburgh, he proceeded to have 5 solid seasons, hitting .308 with a .426 on base and a .591 slugging while averaging 37 homers a season. With Giles getting closer to free agency, though, the Pirates decided to trade him to the Padres. He went on to finish his career with San Diego and posted more solid numbers. Over 7 seasons with the Padres, he hit .279 with a .380 on base and a .435 slugging. At number 6, I have Adrian Gonzalez, Josh Beckett, and Carl Crawford to the Dodgers. This trade was an absolute doozy and completely blew my mind as a Red Sox fan when it happened. For this one, we have to go back to the 2011 season, which was when the Red Sox had added Adrian Gonzalez and Carl Crawford in the prior offseason, 2 of the best players in baseball at the time. The Red Sox in 2011 were being dubbed as the greatest team ever, and then proceeded to have one of the worst collapses of all time, going 7-20 in September to blow a 9-game lead for the wild card, one of the worst collapses in Major League Baseball of all time. They proceeded to fire Terry Francona, and Theo Epstein left town for the Chicago Cubs. After hiring Bobby Valentine as the new manager and Ben Cherington as the new general manager, the Red Sox proceeded to have an awful season and had a record of 60-67 on August 25th. Adrian Gonzalez and Josh Beckett were underperforming, and Carl Crawford had become one of the biggest busts of a contract of all time. With an overinflated payroll, the Red Sox made a shocking move to shed a ton of payroll, sending Adrian Gonzalez, Josh Beckett, Carl Crawford, and the main piece of the trade, Nick Punto, to the Dodgers for a package of prospects. While the move didn't help the Dodgers reach the promised lands and none of the prospects for the Red Sox turned into anything, it was a stunning trade that no one thought was even possible. At number 5, I have David Cone to the Blue Jays. We got to go back a little bit for this one, but this trade before the waiver deadline ended up being one of the best because it ended up helping the Blue Jays win the first of 2 straight World Series championships. In 1992, the Mets were going through a losing season, and with Cone approaching free agency, they decided to trade him, and the Blue Jays took advantage. It did take giving up Jeff Kent, who ended up being a solid player for the Mets over the next 4 seasons, but David Cone was great for the Blue Jays in a short stint before heading to Kansas City the next season. Over 8 games down the stretch, he posted a 2.55 ERA and pitched very well in the postseason, pitching in 4 games while posting a 3.24 ERA and helping the Blue Jays win their first World Series in franchise history. At number 4, I have Jose Bautista to the Blue Jays. Speaking of the Blue Jays, back in 2008, the Pirates weren't up to much as they were going through an incredibly long stretch of losing seasons. During this tough stretch, they had one player by the name of Jose Bautista, who was on his 4th team in his young career at the time. With the Pirates, he played 400 games and put up uninspiring numbers, hitting .241 with a .733 OPS. The Pirates decided to ship him to his 5th team, the Toronto Blue Jays, for a young catcher by the name of Robinson Diaz, who ended up not amounting to much. Bautista, on the other hand, completely turned his career around and became a force for the Blue Jays over the next 10 seasons. Over 1,235 games, he proceeded to hit .253 with a .372 on base and a .506 slugging while averaging 32 homers a season. He made 6 straight All-Star games and provided one of the most clutch postseason homers we'll ever see, an eventual game-winning 3-run shot against the Texas Rangers in Game 5 of the ALDS in 2015. At number 3, I have Justin Verlander to the Astros. After a few years of the Astros going through a tough rebuild, they put together a couple of winning seasons in 2015 and 2016. In 2017, though, the Astros really put it together, don't you say it. While the rotation did have a few good guys, they decided to add a big name in Justin Verlander to make a run at a World Series. While it did take a big package of prospects, it paid off big time for the Astros as he won all 5 of his starts down the stretch that season, posting a 1.06 ERA in the process. The Astros would go on to win the World Series in 2017, don't you say it, and help them win another in 2022. Overall for the Astros at the time of this recording, he's posted a record of 65-20 with an ERA of 2.29, 11 strikeouts per 9, and 1.6 walks per 9 over 107 starts. Insane numbers. At number 2, I have Jeff Bagwell to the Astros. Speaking of the Astros, let's talk about one of their best players of all time, Jeff Bagwell. As a Red Sox fan, I sometimes think about what it would have been like to have Jeff Bagwell as a career-long Red Sox, hitting moonshots over the monster for years. While that fantasy never came to fruition, it was possible at one point until the Red Sox traded Bagwell to the Astros for reliever Larry Anderson. The Red Sox were in the thick of a playoff race and needed some bullpen help, so the addition of Larry Anderson helped a decent amount down the stretch. His stay in Boston was short, though, and he ended up signing with the Padres in the offseason. For Houston, though, they received a minor leaguer by the name of Jeff Bagwell, a 4th-round pick in 1989 who had put up an .880 OPS in AA in 1990. Bagwell came up to the Astros in 1991, and he never slowed down from there. While his power numbers took a few years to get going, he ended up finishing with a career 449 home runs, 1,529 RBIs, all while batting .297 with a .408 on base and a .540 slugging for his career. While he wasn't able to win a ring in his career, he was voted into the Hall of Fame and will go down as one of the best Astros of all time, if not the best Astro of all time. And last but not least, I have John Smoltz to the Braves. Back in 1987, the Tigers were in the playoff mix, but needed some more starting pitching. On the market was veteran Doyle Alexander, who had just signed with the Braves a few months prior. He wasn't anything special with the Braves, but ended up helping the Tigers tremendously down the stretch, going 9-0 with a 1.53 ERA and helping the Tigers win the AL East and finish with the best record in the American League. They ended up falling short to the eventual World Series Series champion Twins in the league championship series, though. To get Doyle Alexander, all it took was one young prospect by the name of John Smoltz, a 22nd round pick who had a 5-10 record with a 5.73 ERA in the minors in 1987. Bobby Cox, the general manager at the time, said, "Who the heck is Smoltz?" Braves scout John Hagerman told him Smoltz had the best arm he had ever seen on a right-hander, and boy oh boy was he right. Smoltz ended up putting together a Hall of Fame career as both a starter and a reliever, winning 213 games and saving 154 games, all while posting an ERA of 3.33 and 3,084 strikeouts over 3,473 innings pitched. He was also phenomenal in the postseason, posting a 15-4 record with a 2.67 ERA over 41 postseason games. He also won the Cy Young in 1996 and helped the Braves win a World Series in 1995. Enshrined into the Hall of Fame in 2015, Smoltz will go down as one of the best pitchers of all time, and in my opinion, will go down as the best waiver deadline deal of all time. So that's my list. Tell me what you think down below. Did I leave anyone off? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. If you can on the way out, hit the like button for me, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.